Hello and welcome to the Bank POC training. Here are the hands-on activities as follows. Upload dataset to S3. Bucket, FTC Training Bank POC. Use separate folders for each table. Database. Use your previously created database. Training_your_name_DB crawler for your bank dataset in S3. Create another crawler for your Redshift tables. Create Redshift tables under schema. Bank_POC_training. Create a glue job for each table to load data into Redshift. Clean data, join tables, and perform analysis using SQL, Power BI, or Python. Here is the workflow overview: data wrangling, clean and prepare raw datasets; customer analysis, explore demographics, behavior, and trends; account analysis, assess balances, activity, and account patterns; transaction analysis, examine spending, frequency, and volume. First is data wrangling. Here is the case. For customers table, determine how many customers that doesn't have first name or last name. Replace missing data with NODATA. You may pause the video first to generate your own SQL script. Script shown here is selecting all customers that has blank first name or last name. Next script shows how to update the blank first name or last name into a string NODATA. Next case is, for customers table, determine how many customers that doesn't have an email or a valid email. Replace with invalid, if is invalid, NODATA if it is missing. You may pause the video first to generate your own CQL script. Here is the script showing the count of invalid email addresses. Then, the script here shows how to update the blank email into NODAT, a string, an invalid email into an invalid string instead. Next is change the format of first name and last name. You may pause the video first to generate your own SQL script. Here is the SQL script on how to format the first name and last name. Next is identify how many duplicates are in the transactions table and drop it. You may pause the video first and generate your own SQL script. Here is the CQL script on how to identify duplicates. And here is how to drop it. Next is identify how many duplicates are in the transactions table and drop it. You may pause the video first and generate your own SQL script. Here is the CQL script on how to identify duplicates. And here is how to drop it. Next is identify how many transactions that does not have start time and end time, then drop these transactions. Here is the SQL script on identifying how many transactions does not have start and end time. And here is how to drop it. Lastly, identify how many transactions does not have a valid start time or end time, then drop it. Here is the SQL script on identifying invalid start or end time. And here is how to drop it. Moving on to customer analysis sample scenarios. First is how many customers does the bank have? Here is the SQL script on identifying how many customers the bank have. Next is get the distribution of number of customers per branch in descending order. Here is the SQL script on getting the distribution of customers per branch in descending order. Next is what is the average account balance for customers along all branches. Here is the SQL script on getting the average balance for customers along all branches. Next is which customer has the highest account balance per branch. Here is the SQL script on getting the highest account balance per branch. Next is what is the number of customers that have savings account only, checkings account only, and both. Here is the SQL script on getting the number of customers per account type and having both account type. Lastly, what is the average deposit amount made per branch with age 18 to 30? Here is the SQL script on getting the average deposit amount per branch with age 18 to 30. Moving on to account analysis sample scenarios. First is how many accounts are there in total. Here is the SQL script to get the total number of accounts. Next is what is the total balance per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the total balance per branch. Next is what is the average balance per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average balance per branch. Next is what is the total balance per account type per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the total balance per account type per branch. Next is what is the average account balance per account type per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average account balance per account type per branch. Next is the top 3 branches with the highest number of unique customers. Here is the CQL script to get the top 3 branches with the highest number of unique customers. Lastly, how many account number ends in digits 123? Here is the SQL script to get the number of account numbers ending in 123. Lastly, we will go through some transaction analysis sample scenarios. First is what is the total number of transactions. Here is the SQL script to get the total number of transactions. Next is what is the total number of deposits and withdrawals per branch. Here is the CQL script to get the total number of deposits and withdrawals per branch. Next is what is the average daily transaction per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average daily transaction per branch. Next is which month of the year, 2023, has the highest number of transactions per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the highest number of transactions per branch. Next is during which hour of the day the transactions usually peak. Here is the SQL script to get the hour of the day the transactions usually peak. Next is what is the average duration time per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average duration time per branch. Next is what is the average duration time for customers 50 and above per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average duration time of customers 50 and above per branch. Next is do transactions overlap with each other? How frequent does the overlap occur? Find the average overlaps per day per branch. Here is the SQL script to get the average of overlaps per day per branch. Lastly, is there any difference in transaction duration between different customer demographics? Here is the SQL script to get if there are differences in transaction durations between different customer demographics. That is all for the mock Bank POC training. Thank you.